This is Crash Talk. I'm Mike Harber, your host. And before I get into anything else tonight, I've got to answer a question. I've had people say, what is Crash Talk? What's the purpose? What is all this about? Well, about 20 years ago, we started a live call-in talk show called Crash Talk. Different guest each week. It was on Saturday mornings, hour-long show. And the purpose was to provide information, to help educate the public, so you would have an understanding if you're involved in an automobile accident, whether it's your fault or whether it's somebody else's, so that you understand insurance, the insurance company's obligation to you, your rights under the law, and how to maneuver your way through an insurance claim. It can be a very confusing, time-consuming time in your life, and it will always happen when you least expect it, or when you don't have the time to deal with it. And that can be very detrimental to you and your financial success in making it through a claim. We've kind of talked about this as a journey, and all of a sudden you end up in this journey that you really didn't want to be on. And so you need some help. You need to have a better understanding of what your rights are. So that's what Crash Talk came about. And it was kind of a play on words. If you remember back in the day, sports figures would give each other a hard time. And they called it trash talk. They were trash talking each other. And so a friend of mine came up with, why don't you call your show Crash Talk? And that's what we did. Well, we ended that in 2012. And I was supposed to retire, and as fate would have it, I haven't retired. Actually, probably busier now than I've ever been. And during this global pandemic with COVID-19, I had many people say, look, start Crash Talk again, start Crash Talk again. So we thought, okay, let's do it. And that's why we're here. So hopefully these programs that we put together, these episodes, will give you information that'll be useful, helpful to you in settling or making your way through a claim, and understanding there are resources that you can turn to. So let me give my disclaimer. Neither I or any of the employees or members of my company, Harber Appraisal, or Crash Talk, are giving any legal advice. We're not attorneys, and if you need legal advice, you should seek that from a practicing attorney in your local area. My guest tonight is Erica Eversman, and Erica is an attorney from Cleveland, Ohio. She is an attorney, and she will talk about general legal principles. She's not a practicing attorney in the state of Washington, but she has really, over the years, I've known Erica for probably going on close to 30 years, and she is a wealth of information. She does have a nonprofit organization to provide resources, to provide information and documents that you can use. So we'll post that later in the show, so you can go there. So with that, let's hear what Erica has to say tonight. Erica, just, hey, get out there. What is it you want to tell the public? You've been a big resource to body shops for years, and appreciated across the country. But you've got so much of an understanding of not only the collision industry and the insurance industry and consumer rights and warranty and everything else. What would be the one thing you would like to say to consumers? And you know what? I was thinking about this before we got on. To the ladies. Women are particularly vulnerable, I think, in my opinion, in a collision, because they're dealing with an insurance company, they're dealing with body shops, and I think they're a little more vulnerable, and I see insurance companies taking advantage of that.
What's interesting, I think women feel vulnerable in that circumstance. But on the other hand, I also find that women are a lot feistier in
Yes.
refusing to just accept something. And I think a significant reason for that is I noticed this with car sales issues and doing diminished value analyses and things, that what I have found over 20 years, more than 20 years doing this, is that you cannot sell a previously damaged vehicle. And I don't mean the bumper was cracked. I mean, I, a damage of some meaningful or significant amount.
A train wreck.
Well, even if it's not a train wreck,
Yeah.
even if it's just, if it's a bumper scratch that's been painted, no problem. Okay, but that's about it. You cannot sell a previously damaged vehicle to a woman who has any other economic choice. Again, unless, the only caveat there is unless she knows or is involved or understands collision repair. So the women who are involved in collision repair or whose family members may own a shop or something, okay, they may be the only ones you could ever sell one to, because they can look at it and tell whether it was properly repaired or not. But you cannot sell any other woman who doesn't have that background, provided she has the economic choice to not have to buy that car, as opposed to this is all I can afford. Because we know, I mean, I know how to change a tire. I can no longer change the tires on my car if I get a flat, because the lug nuts get machine set and I can't get them off, right? We don't have the physical strength. I think in the back of our minds, whether we are consciously aware of it or not, we are always worried, if this vehicle breaks down, is Ted Bundy going to be the person who comes along to help me fix my car?
Yeah, and he's from the Northwest.
Right. Well, right. Exactly. I'm not going to put my kids in a potentially dangerous vehicle. Will it be okay for them? I mean, these are the things that go through women's heads. Men, on the other hand, I found immediately will say, how much less? It is an interesting comparison. And I think it's because men feel much more secure that they could handle any issues or problems that came up with the car. And they're not really worrying about whether it's Ted Bundy who's going to come along and help them, or if that's, Ted Bundy's the tow truck driver or whatever else. So I think that in one respect, you're right, women feel very vulnerable. On the other hand, I think many women are more likely to be aggressive in fighting to get the correct repair. However, I guess if you ask me, back to your original question about what is the thing that I would want people to know in general, consumers to know, it's really a twofold issue. One, don't be a wimp. Stand up for yourself. Tell your insurance company you're not going to put up with them suggesting that it's perfectly okay for you to do with either crash parts that might not be proper or acceptable for your repair. The fact that, we just don't pay to have the technician test drive your car to make sure it was properly repaired. Oh yeah, we just don't pay for that. Or we don't pay for all these other things that they say. Ask, where in my policy does it say you do not pay for the technician to test drive my car to make sure it's safe to go back out on the nation's highways? Mm-hmm. Show me in my policy where it says that. Yeah. Stand up for yourself. And if you have issues and you're not getting your way, or you feel you have a meaningful grievance, and I say getting your own way, I'm not talking about temper tantrums. I'm talking about real, appropriate issues. Please make certain you file a complaint with your Department of Insurance.
Right.
I do not care. I hear people all the time say to me, well, they're not going to do anything. Well, that's right, because the Departments of Insurance have pretty universally told me, we do not get into fact-based decision-making. In other words, we don't get into, is this the correct part for the repair or not, type of back and forth. However, whether an insurance company gets investigated depends on the number and the type of complaints that are made. So if you feel that you are being unfairly taken advantage of by the insurer, or that the insurer is not doing right by you, file a complaint with the Department of Insurance. And I'm working with the National Association of Insurance Commissioners to expand the type of complaint topics that you automatically have in a drop-down bar if you were online and trying to fill out a complaint. Because that, I think, is part of the problem, is that the commissioners' websites have relied on a certain limited number of topics, and they don't really expand or address the true nature of some of the things people are complaining about. And they're just limited to things like the insurer didn't pay enough to fix my car, or the insurer decided to total my car and I thought it could be repaired, or vice versa.
Right.
That is not an appropriate universe upon which to be looking at consumers' claims. And I'm really going to be trying to see if we can assist the commissioners in expanding some of those things so that they get a much better understanding of what the issues are that consumers are facing.
Well, I think you may have even said this already, but one of the things that happens is because we've been trying to get some legislative changes in some of the provisions in our state, and the response that we've heard from the legislature and from the OIC is we don't see that there's a problem. And it's because there hasn't been any complaints. If there's no complaints filed, and whether or not you feel that they're going to do anything, that's neither here nor there, because it ends up a permanent part of the insurer's file in our state, in the capital, that these were complaints that were filed. And so it is important. And again, I really want to be sensitive of your time, but it occurred to me as we're even talking about this, one of the biggest problems that we're seeing, if you go to one of the insurance company's preferred shops, they're pretty quick to jump on that and to try to come to some resolution, and then they're going to go back to their shop and make their shop reimburse them. So there's no out of pocket. But it's where the insurer or a claimant pick the shop themselves, and it's not a program shop. Right before our call, matter of fact, one of the reasons that I was a little bit late getting with you is that Liberty Mutual contacted me. It's on a bad repair. She picked the shop. It's got problems, and what happens a lot of times in these shops that are preferred, somebody will go in, and again, they're being held to the fire for how long it's in the shop,
right?
And keeping costs down, not additional supplements, and getting them out the door. And so we find quite often, again, the paint, everything on the outside might look right on.
Exactly.
But it's like, well, why doesn't the bumper fit right? And so we look a little bit deeper, we find out the foundation, the structure is not right. And they tried putting it all back together and getting it out the door. So so they don't have to go back to the shop that put it on the road in an unsafe condition. Is there a magic bullet for that? I mean, they have a duty, especially if it's first party, if it's your insurance company, they can't just pass you off and say, well, it's between you and the body shop. You picked them.
Well, that is an interesting thing that I'm exploring. And part of that is there is certainly a legal argument to be made that by virtue of having these preferred shops, you are putting your seal of approval on them, and that you can incur some liability. It's part of once again, I'm dating myself, the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. That's one of the reasons Good Housekeeping went away from that for so many years, was because they ended up being held liable for certain things that they had recommended. And so there's a question about a potential duty on the part of the insurer. They claim that they are making certain that these are great shops and, that they have all this great equipment and stuff. And yet, there is really no evidence to suggest that they in fact do that. But more importantly, what I have found, there have been a few cases in about the last 10 years or so that, again, it shows me that attorneys and judges don't understand the distinctions in the remedies of pay in money or pay in money or elect to repair, because a number of cases, in fact, one of them came out of, I believe it was Northern California, and it made a suggestion. It effectively said that if you take your vehicle to an insurance company's preferred shop, that is an election to repair on the part of the insurance company.
Really?
Which I certainly don't think that the court that was writing the decision anticipated that someone like me would read it that way, because I think that they were saying, oh yeah, okay, so they told you to go here, and because the couple was saying, we don't think this car should be repaired, we think it's a total, we think it should be totaled. And so in essence, the court was saying, no, the insurance company elected to repair, and they, you took it to one of their preferred shops. So by taking it to a preferred shop, that was an election to repair, because they were refusing to sign refusing to sign the authorization to allow the repairs to proceed, which again is another complication that we haven't talked about, where the intersection between what the insurance company can do and what insurance company allows, but what consumer protection laws require or allow or demand the body shop to do that don't apply to the insurance. So in that case, the consumer, under California's consumer protection laws, the consumer was the only person or entity who could authorize the repair. Mm-hmm. So they had to sign. They were refusing to sign. The appellate court said the insurance company elected to repair you by telling you to go to one of their preferred shops, and you had a duty to do this. You had a duty to authorize the repairs, and so it found in favor of the insurer and against the insureds. But the interesting thing about that is, that's an argument that I have been making and exploring, is that if insurers have preferred programs, and certainly if they're telling you how wonderful these programs are and how they hire only the best and the brightest, there is certainly an argument to be made that that is an election to repair that makes the insurance company primarily liable for the quality and the propriety of the repair.
What happens though? What happens if you're not following the direction of the insurance company, and you choose a shop that's an independent shop, but maybe they're a shop that is hooked up with a number of other insurance companies, just not this particular one, and you're left with a sack of snakes.
A bad repair?
Yeah, bad repair.
Well, I will have to say, if it's in that case, it's like, to the extent that the insurer is arguing that it only was paying in dollars, as long as they butted out of the repair, as long as they just paid the bill and didn't say, we don't pay for this, we don't pay for that. And, and again, once again, I'm talking reasonable things. I'm not saying you wanted flames painted on the side of your car and they refused to pay that,
right?
Which is entirely appropriate, unless you had flames painted.
I was just going to say, if you had flames, then they better.
Okay. But I'm just saying that if the insurance company truly was just writing checks and, was not involved in any form of telling you what they would or wouldn't pay for, or what was or was not appropriate for your repair, then consumer, it's your job to fight it out with the body shop. Now, the good part about that is your consumer protection laws are going to give you a lot of opportunities for recovery against an offending collision repair shop in ways that you will never see in today's environment against an insurer.
Can you turn back around though? There's one of the provisions up here in one of our administrative codes says that insureds, and I'm going to paraphrase,
Sure.
that they cannot deny a claim based on somebody else's liability. So if you're using your insurance company, and
Right.
whether they were the ones that paid for the repair or not, if you've got collision coverage and you end up finding yourself in a situation to where you've got a bad repair, maybe unsafe, and everybody's pointing fingers at each other, don't you have the ability to go to your own insurance company and say, look, I'm making a claim here? And they're going to say, well, we don't warranty anybody else's work. And it's just like, well, wait a minute. Either if that bad repair results in rusting of welds or a new occurrence, or there was damage that wasn't even addressed to start with, that the floor is still wadded up, or it needs a frame rail and they just put the outside stuff on and made it look pretty, doesn't that give you the ability to go back to your insurance company and say, look, you have a duty to me. My vehicle's not even safe. I have damage on my car. You fix it like the policy requires, and then you can go after whoever you want to go after to get your money back. That's your job as my insurer. Is that a good theory, or am I off base?
Well, no, certainly if there is damage from the original accident that was not repaired, all right, there is no question that it existed at the time of, it existed because of the accident and wasn't repaired. That is certainly something that you can demand that your insurance company remedy and allow them to go back after either the shop or the at-fault driver's insurer through a subrogation claim. I think it is possible, and again, I think it would really depend on the state law as to whether the insurer is responsible for paying for, in essence, a re-repair, and then going after possibly the body shop that did the poor repair. That's something I have to think about, Mike. I haven't had anyone ask me that question yet. I've got to mull that one over.
Well,
I do.
Okay. Well, you know what? That might be something for us to have another time where we can get together, because we're running into that quite a bit. If the consumer they do assert their right, they don't go to the preferred shop. They pick it,
Right.
and then
And it's still a crummy body shop.
Yeah.
Or they do crummy work this time. Whatever.
Well, yeah, and the sophistication on these cars. I mean, it's
Yeah.
more and more. So, okay, well, let's do this. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, always a pleasure, Mike. It's
Well,
always a pleasure.
I'm hoping, that through pieces like this, that
Yep.
we can help educate the public so they understand that they've got rights, that they don't just have to just take whatever's given to them by their insurance company. They've already paid money for the coverage, and that's one of the, and that's one of the reasons I can continue to say you just need to use your own insurance company. Let them sort it out later.
Well, one of the things that I still say is, okay, explain to me, why do my auto insurance rates go up every year when the value of my car goes down every year?
Oh my gosh.
How is that?
Yes.
How do my rates go up when you have less risk
Right.
every year?
Yep. No. That is a very, very interesting concept. I mean, the day that you drive off with that brand new car, you're based on the value of that brand new car. 3 years later, your premiums have gone up and your value of your car's gone down. No.
Absolutely.
I think it's a little bit of a racket, but hey, my opinion.
Well, it was another good evening with Erica Eversman, and she's always just full of energy and just shares good information. And I'm really thankful to her. And hopefully you gained some more understanding of your rights and what goes on with insurance companies. And I think the one point is, don't be a wimp. Don't just accept whatever you're told and just go away with that. Stand up for yourself. Assert your rights. Seek others that can help you through this journey of an insurance claim. So with that, keep your distance, wear your mask, stay safe, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. This has been Crash Talk.